Let me begin with two small anecdotal stories. Some time ago I had a Greek PhD student who completed his dissertation on the topic of ecological sustainability. And we were talking all positive terms on how important it is to protect nature. He celebrated his PhD party in the Peloponnesus in Greece, and I went there for a weekend to have a nice weekend. It was very nice. And after the party, he collected all the remainings of the party in a plastic bag, and halfway on our way to Athens he stopped somewhere and said, well, I have to throw away this bag because we have no waste disposal system here, so we just threw it in the valley, and it's full of bags. He said, well, the village is too small even to have a waste disposal center or anything else, so all of us for centuries already we dump all our waste in the valley. The small village has no way to treat in an efficient and economically feasible way any type of waste treatment, especially if you have chemical waste and poisonous material. And that's one story. So a village does not help us very much. You need a critical size for ecological, because the statement is on ecological sustainability. You need a critical size to have ecological sustainability in an efficient way. On the other hand, I just had a talk with one of the engineers of the new waste incineration plant in Amsterdam, which is one of the most sophisticated ones maybe in the world. There's almost a 90% energy recovery out of waste. A significant part of the waste, from which a lot of money is made, comes nowadays from Napoli. So it's shipped there, and we make a lot of money out of the waste from Napoli. And it's a huge plant. It has still an overcapacity. It can accommodate millions of more people, etc. It doesn't matter. So size is very good. Size is good for ecological sustainability. So I'm not. I think this statement is true, provided at least you have the proper equipment and the proper governance structures which would allow this. But in principle, the statement can always be true, because you can have, of course, district heating, you can have combined waste and heat and power, you can have, of course, waste incineration, energy savings equipment, etc. And these are all based on large scales. And so, in my view, the only way to save the world is to go for bigger agglomerations.
I think Embrace also wanted to comment.
And mind you, all that with the example of the one village in Greece that might not be sustainable. That doesn't work here. So let me just.
That was a quick. We can do this, Peter. With all that, on the one example from the village in Greece where things weren't going well, I think you could argue the opposite as well, and say, well, we can have a rural world that is perfectly sustainable, and I could come up with anecdotal evidence from villages in Africa or in Asia that have done so very successfully, at least more successfully than most villages in Greece, apparently, for many, many centuries. Thank you. I speak for Greece here.
All right.
Continue.
Let me just disagree for once a bit with Peter, but I think I'm going to try to link it to the previous question and to the previous statement and to some of the comments by Roberto here. I think there are the advantages to agglomeration, there are externalities, but there are also, in other cases, where agglomeration might bring negative externalities. And what we need to think is agglomeration for what and to what. And somewhat simplistically, as a result of the new economic geography, the view has been that agglomeration is always good, and that we can all end up living in one city, the whole world just being one city, and we would be better off than if we are scattered. But I was wondering whether that's not just a historical fluke. That, of course, in the 1990s, big cities did, in generally, much better than medium-sized cities and perhaps rural areas. But it was also as a result of, it came after a period of long decline in some of the big cities, not just in the US, but also elsewhere. What we have seen this in this decade is a much more diversified performance, in which some big cities have done very well, but some big cities have not done particularly well. And if you look at the studies by the OECD and recently published reports, they find that a lot of dynamism comes from intermediate regions, peripheral areas, medium-sized cities, and ultimately rural areas, which by no means perform uniformly well. So the question is whether we need to think in a more place-based sort of approach rather than simplistic solutions and saying, yes, we would need agglomeration, we need a scale, as Peter was saying, but in some cases we would need also diversity, and we can overcome certain types of agglomeration by the sort of things that Robert was saying this morning. So greater interaction at a distance. You're going to a culturally diverse city, and that might imply less local interaction, but more global interaction in smaller places.
And also over time, technical change changes what is the optimal size of various things.
I would not necessarily disagree with all what has been said, but I would argue there are two levels of analysis and reflection. First, one could take sort of a distance perspective, look into the costs, the benefits, including all the externalities. We can map out all these flows of information. In many cases they are available. And you can make up a net balance and come up with a certain conclusion, which may also change over time. That's one type of analysis. The other one is, what are people doing? That's a totally different perspective. But people move to the cities. Even when an economist or a geographer or a planner would argue a bigger agglomeration is not good for you, people move to bigger agglomerations. When I talk to my Mexican students, they were born in villages, and I ask them, well, why did I go to Mexico City? It's a terrible city, 25 million people, it's dirty, it's criminal, it's nothing. Yes, but there we have the best universities, the best job opportunities, they go there. So it's rational from their perspective. There's a social dilemma. And that dilemma is very difficult to solve unless we have a strong government like in China.
Thank you. I think I have to take a bit different approach, as I'm not here as an expert. I'm here as a bureaucrat from the European Commission, and here even I have to make a precision, not from Commission at large, from DG Research and Innovation. And I worked many years on social sciences, where the focus of urban issues has been in recent years mainly on sustainability issues, and most recently the focus has shifted to development of post-carbon societies. But now I'm looking at the question that has been put in front of me. I think we have colleagues that work in another department, other DG, that is called nowadays DG Connect, which is Communications and Information Society, and they do have quite a strong attention on urban issues as well, and they are, among other things, supporting research on ICT solutions for urban areas. So I think I may make this connection to the statement here, but if I have 1 minute to a little bit continue on what we do in our own field in DG Research and Innovation, I would like to flag up 2 imminent opportunities in terms of European funding. We have just launched a call, actually my colleagues, I'm not working anymore in that section, on forward-looking activities on future post-carbon cities in Europe and beyond, and with a very long-term outlook for the 2050. And as the name says, it's quite self-explanatory. So the research should provide qualitative scenarios on the future of EU cities. What are the emerging trends and tensions in European cities? Demographic, human behavior, economic development, social cohesion, for instance, and how innovatively achieve the development of post-carbon cities in Europe. And interestingly for our Moroccan colleagues and friends here, there is a specific reference that what is the potential role for exporting European urban good practices to emerging and developing countries. So this could be even a concrete, imminent cooperation opportunity for those scientists here who would like to submit a proposal. Then another area, as the title of this panel was, that what is the future research. I would like to promote and inform you of our focus on sustainable lifestyles, very much along the lines that Roberto here spoke earlier on in this panel. So there's another major funding opportunity for 4 to 5 million euros to build a consortium that would start to tackle the obstacles and prospects for sustainable lifestyles and green economy in Europe. So the question is that what is needed to move towards these sustainable lifestyles and green economy? We need a comprehensive understanding of the nexus between institutional, technological, political, economic and societal factors. So this research, it needs to address what is the demand side issues, what is current growth model tendency, and how these new paradigms and new consumer behaviors are likely to develop. So very much, again, a forward-looking exercise for a consortium. Minimum of, well, we always have the minimum of 3 research universities. Obviously, in this case, if it's large like this, 4 to 5 million, it would be somewhere around 15 as a rough estimate.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The opportunity for me, so just maybe before going further into that, I wish just to give slight information on my background, just as a climate for development expert, which has been spent the 30 years of my life working on capacity building and developing my information system within Africa, rural or urban. So there I just both of them. And so for that, if I may again introduce something, so whatever, I am not the expert or the specialist in urban versus rural, even if the biggest part of my life was in rural area, and the biggest part of my experience was in rural area, and I might give you, if needed, quite a lot of, not one anecdote, but maybe 1001, just to say how those people, when they are consulted, when they are brought in, can bring quite sustainable solutions. So whatever the decision is taken, for me, my wish would be, and as our colleague just on the other side said earlier, so we need to develop whatever decision you take as a specialist for this urban versus rural or development, so on, we need to develop a proactive risk and opportunity management. Develop a proactive risk and opportunity management using, in a way, whatever we have as knowledge available, but also, in a way, being proactive, early warning system, and also risk transfer. Because when I see what happened just recently in the big cities, you understand that there is a lot of management to be done to be able to avoid a big loss. We could at least reduce that. So my interest would be, or my contribution would be, could we take whatever decision it is taken in this environment, a charter, an action on developing a proactive risk and opportunities management. I don't want to dwell only on the climate issue, but the climate issue is in a way a transversal issue, which could help us. It is very illustrative, but through climate it is more in a way having sustainable development, protecting whatever you have, and especially making use of opportunity. So at least, because we say people are moving to the big cities because they are poor, but I think they can get rich enough to be able to at least not to stop moving to the cities, but at least to do it in a way where it is more sustainable or more supportable. Here's my contribution, if I may. Thank you.
Thank you very much. No. Thank you very much. No, I'm the chairman. It's done. You see, we have a last member that also should have his duties fulfilled. So, please.
Yeah, yes, I already mentioned about if through a project, urban management or city management, that is true, I think.
Okay. Okay, that was quick. We have, we have now spent 15 minutes over the time limit on this. So, as chair, I now decide that we finish the panel. I thank all participants for their contributions, and we gather around our coffee cups. So, please, thank you.